hello there, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Beyond the Breach. And as you can see, I've got two of my dynamic panelists on with me this evening. I got Liz Eladrisi and Toya Davis. And say hi, everybody. Reach out, say hi.
Hello.
And those of you who are already on, Nicole, Ayana, welcome, Ayana. Jono, Rock, thank you. And anyone else who's watching, thank you so much for showing up here on this evening. And do we have a topic for you tonight? I know I say that every week, but I think they're all good. So, for those of you who either are a wife or have thoughts of becoming a wife or you want to be a wife, or those of you who are married to a wife, have you ever thought about what that really means? What does it really mean to be a wife? So that's what we're going to talk about. Hey, sis. Hey, Jackie. That's what we're going to talk about this evening. What does it mean to be a wife? And I have a dynamic woman who is going to come on to address some of the questions that we have this evening. And just FYI, under the description on YouTube, you will find our guest speakers links for her website and for her Instagram, and for Liz and Toya also, links for them are there as well. So without further ado, let me bring on Miss Iesha Vigo. Welcome, Iesha.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I count it an honor and a blessing to be on your platform. So thank you so much for considering me.
Well, I appreciate you saying yes, because sometimes when I reach out to folk, sometimes I'm a little hesitant. But my mama always taught me growing up, listen, they could either say two things, either yes or no. And either way, it ain't no skin off your nose. So go ahead and ask. So I appreciate you being here. So before we get started, I want to read Iesha's bio. So Iesha is a wife of 30 plus years. She is a mother of 5 and a grandmother to 6. She is a speaker, a wife coach, entrepreneur, and educator. Iesha Vigo is the founder of Wife Life LLC. Her goal is to positively impact the culture of marriage through the lens of a wife by helping wives with the tools, resources, and education they need to overcome marital hardships. Iesha created a private wife support group specifically for wives to come together in a safe space where we can be transparent, raw, real, and have very candid conversations. And that candid conversations is highlighted, quotation marked, and underlined. And those conversations are on topics that pertain to all things wife and marriage. This group is designed but not limited to wives who have experienced infidelity, abuse, drug addiction, difficulties with mother-in-law relationships. Liz, you never have any of that.
Never.
And felt as if they were quietly dying on the inside and want to still remain married. In this group, Iesha speaks life. Using her 30 years of marriage, her 30 years of experience in marriage, Iesha is shifting the culture of marriage one wife at a time. By teaching wives how to navigate in marriage using biblical principles, she is a Christian who was led by God to help wives become restored, healed, and empowered in and outside of their marriage. Woo! Let's clap it up again for Iesha.
Thank you.
Wow, that is wonderful. So Candace, oh hi Candace, welcome. So Iesha, there are many preconceived notions regarding what a wife is and what a wife is not. So how do you address this?
So first, I want to start by saying that wives, we are a crown of honor to our husbands, right? And that's what the Bible tells us. We are a crown of honor to our husbands. And in so being, we have to make sure that we are following God's instruction or his blueprint on how to be a wife. So in doing that, we honor our husbands, we respect them, we love them, we live a godly example before them. Um, we
Yeah.
do what is right to bring them honor and not good. We're a good wife to them so that they can trust us and know that they are in a safe space with us. Now, there's a difference between being a wife and someone who got married, and this is the worldly view, in my opinion, because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
everyone, there are some women who can have a ring and say I is married, right? But they're not living the standard in which God has called them to live to be a wife. Now, what it means to be a wife, I had a few scriptures. I would say here, Proverbs 14:1, it tells us
Mm-hmm.
that a wise woman builds her home, but a foolish one plucks it down. So
Mm-hmm.
just because you say I is married and I got a ring, you might not be unified with your husband as God is calling us to be.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are looking at it through the lens of a worldly view, you're thinking of me, myself, and I, and my
Mm-hmm.
husband will get in where he fits in because I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of us, or I should say a lot of women, or in my experience, myself, I grew up around strong women. So we were taught to be very independent and not to really need a man. So if I get married, we're along for the ride together until it feels good. And then when it doesn't feel good or when it's not working to my benefit, well, I can just, step out that marriage, or I could just be like, it's not suiting my purpose. So, okay, this marriage thing is not working because he's not accommodating to my needs as a wife based on this worldly perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But biblically, as a wife, we're submitting ourselves to our husband. He's the
Mm-hmm.
head, and then we fall underneath him. So, as a biblical person, I would say that we are one, we're unified, we're united, and I'm going to follow my husband. Wherever he leads, I'm going to submit myself to him and follow him.
Mm. Okay, that's good. Now you mentioned the S word already. So, oh, before we move on, I want to ask Toya and Liz for your input on that. From your view, what a wife is and what a wife is not.
Okay, well,
Oh,
I'll go. Well, I completely agree with Aisha. I never thought that well, I can't say I never thought I was going to be a wife, but I didn't have the little girl dreams of, oh, getting married and Prince Charming and looking forward to marriage. I didn't see many positive marriages growing up in my family, so it wasn't actually something I strive to do. I didn't strive to be married.
Mm-hmm.
So, meeting my husband and becoming friends, it was at that point that I was like, you know what? I really want to be his wife, and it was more that was in my mind more so than, being married. So my definition of a wife is, I agree with the Bible. I'm his helpmate. I'm here to be his partner, to help him grow, and helping him grow helps us both. So that is my definition
Mm-hmm.
of what a wife should be.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I totally echo that same sentiment. I mean, when we had this topic broached to us, and I said to my husband, when I think of what is a wife, I think is what is a partner. I'm your partner, and you are
Mm-hmm.
mine, and we both bring so much to the table, and we support each other, and that's really what it is in my mind, just a partnership. There's not one thing that one role that one of us has that we exclusively do. We kind of both
Mm-hmm.
pitch in, and if one of us needs more help or support, that's what we do. So in my mind,
Yeah.
that's what it's there, what being a wife is. It's just truly being a partner to one another.
Yeah. Yeah. I like all of those answers, and I absolutely agree. Um, and before we started, Aisha and I were talking about how it seems at nowadays there is such a negative connotation given to marriage, and there are not a lot. There are some, but there are not a lot of people speaking positively about marriage. And when I heard you say, Iesha, about the husband being the head, and Toya, you talked about being a helpmeet. Liz, you talk about being a partner. And what about those women who say, "Yeah, but what about me? Why do I have to submit?" You know how we do.
Right. Well, first,
What do you say to them?
so first of all, that's in the Bible, okay? Because there is, if you will, if I can say this, there is a pecking order. There's God,
Mm,
there's husband, and then there's wife.
mhm,
So in
mhm.
order to be
Like
a
that.
good wife, if you will, we have to submit to our husband, and that's not a dirty word.
Right.
That's actually a word that gives God honor, because it tells us in the
Mm,
scriptures that we are to submit ourselves to our own husbands.
right.
That is how we honor God. That is how we
Mhm.
honor our husbands, right? So, submission, it's like I said, it's not a dirty word, but it's just an act of sincere humility,
Yeah.
right?
Mm,
Knowing and recognizing and accepting, because it is an
I
exception.
like that.
We have to
Mm,
come to acknowledge with and terms with that we have to submit to our husbands, because God has given an order that if God is the head of the church and he likened marriage as a church, a relationship, we have to submit in order for us to be that crown, in order for us to honor him. We have to submit. And it's not a dirty word to do that. It's perfectly okay.
yeah. And I see Candace commented, because I wrote down what you said, sincere humility. I love that, because that paints an entirely different picture than what some people perceive submission as when they think of it as a dirty word. I'm not submitting to this man. I'm not going to do that, and all that stuff. But sincere humility. So Toya and Liz, what do you guys have to say about that when it comes to the S word?
Well, again, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Submission doesn't mean being a doormat. Um,
Right.
I mean, my husband, we talk, he takes my advice, but he is the head. He's the head of the house. All the children look up to him to be the head of the house. I know that if anything happens, we are a two-income household. I know that if anything happens, he has us. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that he can take care of everything, on his own. And I would say that when you are married to the one God has intended for you, you're
Yeah.
not going to have an issue with your husband being the lead.
Say that again, sis.
When you marry the man that God has intended for you, you will never have
Yes.
a problem with him leading.
Yes. Yes.
And
Because
I
you fit
just
together like a hand in glove.
Yes.
Go ahead, sis Aisha.
And I just wanted to say one thing, that when we decide to get married, when we put those big girl underpants on and say, I'm going to be married, um, we're no longer belonging to ourselves, right? We have now said, in the word of submission,
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving myself to my husband. So I really no longer belong to myself. I belong to
Mm-hmm.
him now. And like to Sister Latoya's, did I say that right?
Yes.
Latoya,
Mm-hmm.
to her point, you know, it's we don't belong to ourselves, because I'm giving myself to him so that he can be honored in my service to him. I'm fit for him. If I marry him, then I'm his fit. I'm his equal. I'm his
Mm-hmm.
partner. I'm his helpmeet.
Yes.
I'm all of these things that's going to enhance our relationship with him. And we don't realize, as women, the power, the influence that we have in
Yes.
our husbands and over our
Absolutely.
husbands, because we
Absolutely.
do have
Yes.
power. So again, submission is not dirty. It's a powerful tool that God has given us, and we can use that in a positive way, or we can use that in a negative way to influence our husband and our marriage
Yes.
and our family relationship. So we do have power in submission. It is not a weakness.
Amen, amen, amen. And Dr. Danita Thompson, who happens to be my counseling supervisor at Mending Hearts Behavioral Health, she said that there is a book entitled Liberated Through Submission. I'm going to look for that book. Thank you for that, Dr. Danita. And I just want to get a couple of other comments here. Jonathan said, I think it's more about submitting to the marriage than being a doormat to the husband. Yeah. And Nicole said, if you believe the Bible, you're one flesh, so it's not difficult to submit. Your personal relationship with God will teach and guide you into submitting. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And what did Ayana say? Submission is a tool that helps us embrace our husbands, marriage, and family. There is a power in submission. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I think something that Toya said is really key. When you marry the one that God has for you, when you marry the right one, because if we go against God's will, because sometimes, we meet people and we may, quote unquote, fall in love. We may fall in lust. We may think this is the one for us. And if we just step out on that, as opposed to making sure that this really is the one that I am supposed to marry, as opposed to just, okay, I'm this age, it's that time, my biological clock is ticking and I've got to get a husband and all my friends are getting married. I've been a bridesmaid 8 times already, but I haven't been a bride. And all those things factoring into making a decision to get married, as opposed to making sure as you possibly can that this is the right one. I hear people, especially women, since it's just us girls, I hear women sometimes talk about, like, this guy was no good and that was no good. Well, maybe he was just no good for you.
Right.
Right.
It's just not the right one for you. It doesn't make him a bad character. I'm not saying they never have bad character. They could possibly be that. But it could also be that he was just not the right one for you. Doesn't make him a bad person at all. I think, Liz, you brought up something about roles and responsibilities. So, Iesha, I'm wondering, do you think that there are defined gender-based roles and responsibilities for a wife?
When I hear that, I get very nervous about that, because I know traditionally there were roles, traditional roles and non-traditional roles of a wife. And I was having this discussion with my daughter the other day, because we were talking about, well, wives need to know how to cook, and wives need to know how to do this and do that. Traditionally, I think, and forgive me if I'm dating this, going back in the day, the role of the wife per se was more so to be confined to the home, if you will, for some wives. And so that was their roles: to cook the meals, to take care of the children, to man the house. Non-traditionally today, women are working. It takes the husband and the wife both to go out and earn the income to meet the needs of the house.
Yeah.
But I will say this, as far as a scripture goes, there is wife behavior in 1 Peter 3, that we must accept the authority of our husbands. But as far as a wife going to the kitchen and saying, I got to cook this meal because, if I don't cook this meal, nobody's going to eat. We have more advantages today than I think maybe we did back then. Whereas if that's not my strength, my defined strength to cook, to be the greatest cook, I need to have a conversation with my husband, and let's talk about, how can I best serve? How can we best come together and make this marriage work? Because, maybe my husband is the better cook.
Right.
Maybe my husband can go in and burn the kitchen, and that's something that he might even enjoy doing. Um, so would it hurt me as a wife to take out the garbage? No, it doesn't. I think it starts with a conversation, maybe even before they get married. What
Yes.
are your expectations of me as your
Yes.
wife? What are your expectations of him as a husband? And then where do you agree? How can you agree together to build your home? So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's traditional roles and non-traditional roles, but both have value, and both can bring things to the table if they talk about it together. Now,
Yeah.
um, I will go back to the scripture where I was talking about the duties of the wife. Again, basically from what I learned in reading the Bible, and I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I have you beautiful ladies on this panel to tell me otherwise. But again, going to Proverbs 14:1, a wise woman builds her home, but a foolish one tears it down with her own hands. So I know what my husband likes as his wife. I'm going to do my best to make sure that I am doing that.
Yeah.
And that's a role of a wife to do, what's best for your house and honor your husband. Um, Listen, I don't want to make my husband miserable because I can't compromise with him, or I can't flow with him. So I'm not going to be a quarrelsome wife. I'm not going to be one who tears down my house with my tongue, because
Right.
we
Right.
do that too. Those, our mouth gets us in trouble as well.
Oh
But
yeah.
like I would say have the conversation with your husband. Talk about what works for you in your marriage, and
Yeah.
then you go from there, because what worked in somebody else's home may not work in yours, but we can always glean from our elders and from other marriages and say, oh, that looks like it might be a good concept, but I just can't cook.
Mm.
That's just not my strong point.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I can clean, I can do that, but have that conversation.
I think that is very, very important because my husband and I had that conversation. I don't know if we had it before we got married or early on in our marriage. And I said to him, I said, listen, I'm going to give you the choice. You can have a wife who cooks every day and you're going to come home to a nice home cooked meal every day, or you can have a wife who works and helps to pay some of the bills and absorb some of the financial responsibility. And, he chose number two. He chose number two, but he also knew that that meant I was not going to be cooking every day because as a nurse, we work hard and we're doing 12-hour shifts and all that. I was not going to come home now and cook every single day. There were days when I did and there were days when I did not. But we talked about that. And he was okay. That's one I love. There are many things I love about my husband. But one thing I love that he is so easy to please when it comes to food. He will eat a PB&J. He will make some tuna. He'll eat a bologna and cheese sandwich and be just as happy as a clam. And I love it. He has never, in 42 years, he has never once complained when I didn't cook. And actually, there have been times when he said, "Val, you don't have to cook. I can go make a sandwich because I'm so happy he loves PB&J. So I always keep PB&J in the house."
And listen, like I said, we are so advanced now. We have people who can do meal preps. So there's things to our advantage that we can do to, make sure meals are in the house. Listen, even if you're not the best cleaner, because we pass down these gender roles from generation to generation. We pass them
Yeah,
down, right? Um, as a mom of children, I try to teach them clean up, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But if that's not their strong suit, you better make sure you get a maid service, get somebody that come
yeah,
in and make
yeah,
sure your house is neat and in order. You have tools to your advantage that you can use. But like I said, use wisdom, work it out, talk it out, and then, make sure you get some resources to help you out.
Well,
yeah,
I'll say that with Rock and I, the way we started our friendship, he already knew certain things that I've already done. Like as a friend, I cook for my friends like all the time. So he knows that I cook. He knows the type of woman that I was when we were friends. So he had the expectation of me, I guess, doing that when we got in a relationship, when we were dating. I was always cooking. So we didn't really have to discuss what our gender roles were because we were doing them during our dating period. But I will say with our children, my son knows how to cook. My daughter knows how to cook. They both can take out the garbage. They know how to do everything. So that way, when they do go into a relationship, I don't want either one of them to feel like, oh, I don't want my son I have to find a woman who can cook,
right?
To feed me. I didn't want that. But I will say, whatever brings my husband peace, that's what I'm trying to do. Because when he has peace and when he feels good, that's everything, So that's my goal.
That's good. I like that. And John, that's Liz's husband, happens to be my son. Ask how he get down in the kitchen.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, John cooks, I mean, more nights than I ever cook. I mean, but it's something that at one point I was cooking and he was with the children and he was like, I enjoy cooking. I enjoy that time away from the children. So, he's like, for me, it just allows me to clear my head and he gets to listen to podcasts while he does it. So, but we like I use resources too. I do like a meal prep service because it was something like I had to realize like, there are so many roles and we have really young kids and not one person and not even both of us can do it all right now.
Right.
So, we're using our resources where we can and like, wisely to just bring ourselves peace, because that both helps us to know what the menu is and have the food already there. And, John enjoys putting it all together and prepping it in the kitchen and I get to spend more time with the kids and play with them. So that's what brings us peace. But that was a discussion that we had. And it's something long-term in our relationship. We've always kind of had that, no, not one person needs to cook, not one person needs to take out the trash. But it's always worked for us. We knew that fit for us, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liz, I know you had a question. I don't know if it's kind of been addressed already.
Yeah, it has. I mean, my question was, how do you think the role of the wife has evolved? As marriages and relationships have evolved. So like, for example, now you're having, I want to say almost probably 90% of marriages are dual family incomes. There's really, not as many stay-at-home moms as there once were. And now sometimes you have stay-at-home dads and, the wife is the provider. So how do you think that has changed the role of the wife?
I mean, go ahead.
No, it's okay. You can go. Go ahead.
I mean, I just feel like back then when we weren't working, the woman's main job was to have children and to provide, lineage for her husband so that their assets and everything can be passed down. That doesn't happen anymore. I mean, a lot of people, have children out of wedlock now, so it's different, But anyway, go ahead. But that was just my thought. We don't have to do that anymore. So.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm glad that we are able to evolve and that we have evolved because there's many hats that wives wear. Like when Miss Valerie had first asked me to be on this platform and she said, "What does it mean to be a wife?" Let me tell you, for that minute when she said that question, when I got that question, I was like, oh, let me tell you, I'm a nurse, I'm a this, I'm a that. But then God had to reel me in for a minute and say, no, let's look at the blueprint of what I gave you to be a wife. And then it takes me to Proverbs 31 when it talks about this virtuous woman. And it lists all the many characteristics of this woman. Now, from my studying and understanding, I know that it was a culmination of women in the Bible who possessed like these great characteristics. And we may have several or we may have a few of these characteristics, but we are not always going to possess them all at one time, right? So in that, going back to the traditional versus the non-traditional, I always wanted to be an at-home mom. I wanted to have the time to take care of my children because I did have 5 of them, and to be honest, to be realistic, it was expensive.
Yeah.
I couldn't work and have my children go to a child care center because I just couldn't afford it. So for my husband and I, it was more feasible for me to stay home. Now there was a sacrifice that had to be made with that. And for those women who choose that traditional path to be that stay-at-home wife, there's sacrifices that they are making of
Yes.
themselves to perform that role. So, I don't want to overlook them and make them feel like, oh, well, because I'm not in the working field, or I'm not in the career field, that I'm less than. No, they're very valuable because they're providing a service, that meets the needs of their family. But
Right.
on the flip side of
Mm.
that, for us women who had to get in the working field, because after a certain age of my children, I had to go to work.
Mm.
So adding income and support to my husband, because these kids cost money, like,
Yeah.
bills and things. So I'm glad that we were able to evolve and find our independence, if you will, in the working field, in the career field, and help our husbands in a whole different avenue that
Mm.
brings, because according to Proverbs 31, she had money, she was educated, she was resourceful, she was well respected. She was like a class act of a woman, of a wife.
Yeah.
And so we don't have to be defined to just being at home or being in the work arena.
Right. And something else about that Proverbs 31 woman, that chick had servants.
Yes.
So she was able to do all of those things and have many irons in the fire and have her hand over here and hand over there. When you have that kind of support at home, it makes it a lot easier.
Right.
And sometimes the roles we take on change from season to season. Because I know when John and Hammy and Sidel were first born and when they were very young, I didn't work. And then after a while, I would work only on the weekend. I would work Saturday, Sunday. And so I could be home with the children Monday through Friday because that's what I really, really wanted. I wanted to be there for them. But that was a financial sacrifice that we made at that time. And we agreed to make that financial sacrifice until the youngest one, my youngest child, Jonathan, until he started kindergarten. And then I took on more work. So it changes from season to season based upon what you have going on in your life, whether what's going on with you and your husband. Maybe you at one point were a stay-at-home mom, and then for whatever reason, the finances changed for your husband, and maybe he did a transition in his job. Anything is possible. And that's why I believe it's so important to have those conversations and to be open and willing and flexible and not rigid in terms of what your role as a wife or a husband is going to look like from year to year and from decade to decade if you are in a long-term marriage. I just want to give a shout out to Jackie V. Hello, Miss Jackie. Thank you so much for joining us on this evening. Iesha, I want you to talk about the issue of respect in a marriage. What look like for a wife to respect her husband? Because the Bible tells us a man to love his wife, a woman to respect her husband. So from your perspective, what does that look like?
So when we respect our husband, we honor him, we cherish him, we love him, we support him, we encourage him, we motivate him. And it's really important because the Bible does speak on our behavior, our affection, our love, our motives, and our intentions towards our husband. And it does tell us to respect our husband. I know that in the marriage journey, we go through ebbs and flows, and sometimes you might get upset with your husband and you want to fuss and all that other kind of stuff that happens in the marriage, that's real in the marriage.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
but we still have to remember to respect him, to honor him, to love him, to cherish him. And it's important because if we take that respect away from him, there's a damage and a disservice that we
mhm,
do. because it's affected in the way we think about him and in the way we behave towards him. And then what we think and what we feel is going to come out of our mouth. And then we're going to talk differently. So we just have to be very careful to monitor that, to monitor us, because the Bible tells us it's okay for us to be upset. But how we behave when we're upset is is one that we have to be careful of. So like when that he's doing something that may not make you happy in the moment, take a step back, get yourself together, and don't speak on it in that moment, because you don't want to dishonor your marriage and you don't want to dishonor your husband.
Absolutely. Toya, Liz, what do you guys have to say on that subject of being respectful to our husbands?
I agree completely. I think that when some people get angry, they do not choose their words wisely. And I think the worst thing that you can do in an argument or even a heated discussion is belittle your husband, and make him feel less than a man, or try to make him feel less than a man that he is. Regardless of whatever he has done, you should never, ever attack his manhood, like ever. And respecting your husband doesn't mean only in the home. It means outside, when you're with your friends, when you're around other people, you're still respecting him. You should not ever talk. I don't talk about my marriage or anything that I feel he may have done to me or whatever with someone else. I don't want anyone ever thinking less than of my husband. Also hanging around, other men. There's no, flirting, no hanging out with a whole bunch of guys. No, I respect my husband every step of wherever I am. And that's how it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I agree with that too. I mean, I think, having that mutual respect in the marriage is very important, and it, gives you the admiration for one another so that you don't, belittle or have those moments. I mean, we're all human, but my whole thing is like, I know a lot of people will say don't go to bed angry, but sometimes that's the best medicine is that time to cool off, to choose your words wisely, to remember and honor, kind of that commitment, and just take that time to breathe and really think about it. And, again, choose your words wisely. Because there is that, I know my husband has respect for me. I respect him. So there's that mutual respect that, neither one of us want to diminish or, break. So it's definitely something that's really important for sure.
Yeah.
And something that Toya said, absolutely, it's important to show that respect in the house, but when you're outside, even more so. I know sometimes if Frank and I are upset with each other, and I think I'm pretty good at doing this, we can have a heated discussion in the car all the way to wherever we're going. But when we step outside of that car, it's me and you against the world, boo.
Yep.
And when we're fixing to leave, we're back at it. Because, you don't want to give ammunition, because some people are looking for ways in which they can get between a husband and a wife.
Absolutely.
So you always present, well, my feeling is always present a united front. I don't care how mad I am at you. I don't care how mad you are at me. We can be mad in the car on the way home, but while we are there, we are one.
Yep. You fix your face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fix the face in the presence of your company. You just fix it. You just be like, no, fix it up. Yep. That's the truth.
Oh, Jackie asked the question. She said, what about when your husband does not have respect for you?
That's a really good question. I'm going to go to 1 Peter 3, and it says that you must accept the authority of your husband, even when he doesn't act right. You still behave in a way that honors God. Why? Because that is going to speak a lot of volume in his life, and it still will win. It has the power to win his heart over. And
Yes.
that's just my ad lib to it. But don't lower your standards. Don't lower yourself to sink in a place where, you know what, he ain't respecting me, so I ain't got to respect him. No,
Yes.
you hold
Do.
on to what God has given you as his wife, because you still have power, you still have influence,
Mhm.
and you
Mhm.
still, carry out your mission, the mandate that God has given you as his wife. And over time, you know, it will win him over. But the grace that we need to be wives is real. The grace
Yes.
that we need to be wives is so real. And that's why we take everything to God in prayer. Like when he,
Mhm.
and I'm not husband bashing, because I don't do in my support group, and I'm not going to do that here. But when he is like not acting his normal self, if you will.
Mhm.
When he's
Mhm.
upset, when he's frustrated, when he's dealing with life, because they have their own whole set of issues that they're dealing with. And sometimes they do take it out on the ones that's closest to them, which is
Mm.
us. We have to get on our knees and use the power of prayer and take everything to God in prayer, because if we're following this pecking order, God, husband, wife, then we got to go before God and say, listen, this
Yes.
man that you gave me, because you told me I was his good thing. So
Right.
this man that came and found me is out of order, and I need you to do some things. I need you to move on my behalf in this situation, so we don't use our tongue the wrong way to tear down.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of times, the ways in which God will move is on the wife
Yep.
to fulfill our role and do what we're supposed to do and to speak right to our husbands and about our husbands.
Right.
Dr. Anita said we will stand before the Lord individually for how we showed up in the marriage. That is good, because we can't say, well, he did this, so I'm going to do that. That tit for
Right.
tat thing, it don't work, because
Mhm.
we're responsible for how we act and how we respond and the things that we do. You know, our husbands, God's going to hold them accountable for their stuff, but we are also going to be held accountable for ours.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that is so true. And anybody else have something to add there?
No, that was good.
Yeah.
Uh, Candace said, tell God on him, let God convict him. I'm sure it's much easier said than done, but it's right.
Mhm.
Yes, that is so true. And there was something that E. Nicole said. And get back to her comment. She was talking about. She said it burns her up when women belittle their husbands in public and behind their backs. She says a woman can't be in her circle if she can't respect the man she said her vows to. That's good. That's powerful,
Mhm.
Nicole. That is
Mhm.
powerful. I remember when during the time, because I don't know if you know this, Iesha, but my husband and I were separated for a few years, and there were people, nobody on my job even knew. Even Nicole, as close as she and I are, nobody on my job knew, because I didn't speak negatively about him.
Mhm.
And anytime I did speak about him, I would just say, that's my cookie man. They thought
Mhm.
that he was the greatest thing since sliced bread,
Wow.
because I didn't go around bashing him or saying negative things about him on the job. I thought it.
Right.
But I didn't say it. So
Mhm.
yeah, Nicole, that is so true. That's good. Thank you, Candace. Candace says she's enjoying this conversation. I'm so glad. Thank you so much, Candace, for joining us. So I want to ask you about this. How would you address a wife who uses sexual intimacy as a weapon or in a way that is transactional?
I would say be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Be very careful. Um, I would encourage the wives to love yourself and love your body, because if you love yourself and if you love your body, you're going to reflect that in a way that you're not going to use your body as a weapon. And
Mhm.
that's what we're doing when we use our body as a transaction or to punish our spouse with sex, right?
Right.
So we have to be very careful, because, as I mentioned earlier, we don't belong to ourselves anymore. We married now. We's married now, like Color Purple. I's married now, right? So we don't belong to ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
belong to each other. And we have to, even when we're not happy, Even sometimes when I have a headache, and I was told, and I'm just going to divert for a minute, what do your head have to do with your bottom part?
Right.
So even in that, and it took some maturing, it takes maturity, it takes some growth, it takes evolving in this step. We still have to be able to give ourselves to our husbands in a way that still honors him and loves him. And we have to love ourselves too. So
Yeah.
be careful, wives, not to use your body as a weapon, because when you do that, trust and believe there's somebody else in the
Right.
side area waiting for the
Oh yeah.
opportunity to step in when you are withholding, when because
Yeah.
at some point they are going to talk about it. Somebody's going to blow sweet whispers in his ear or come around charming, because the enemy is subtle. He's
Yes.
very subtle in his craft. And, somebody's just going to flash an eye or, touch the arm. They're going to do something very subtle that's going to allow them to creep up in there. So we
Yeah.
don't ever want to put ourselves in a position where, look, I have power over you because I'm just not going to give you none. And we're going to wrap up in our house coats and all that kind of foolishness. So we have to
Yeah.
be very careful how
Absolutely.
I agree.
house.
I agree. I don't think it should be used as a gift either.
Right.
That I've
Right.
never understood. It's your birthday, so I'm showing up. I mean, I get it. It's something that you might do all the time, but it shouldn't be used as a gift or as a weapon.
Right.
You're married, and you are for each other all the
Right.
time, or
Yeah.
whatever you guys agree upon.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Dr. Angel said, and thanks for watching, Dr. Angel. Dr. Angel said, you end up punishing yourself as well if you use your body as a weapon.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's that whole mentality sometimes that women have that sex is just for the man's enjoyment. Well, I would say that they have a very warped and skewed view of sexual intimacy
Absolutely.
because God made it for the enjoyment of both people who are involved in the sexual act, not just for the husband.
Yep.
Yeah. Dr. Anita said, so sad that women don't view sex as being created for them to enjoy as well. Right. It's not a duty. It's a beautiful privilege. Absolutely.
And I would even encourage wives and husbands as well, read the book of Songs of Solomon.
Yes, I'm wearing a thing from Song of Songs. Yeah, I love that
about
book.
taking pleasure in your spouse.
Yes.
Satisfy yourself with your own spouse. So, yeah, not a weapon.
Yeah. And unlike what Toya said, not as a gift either. Well, we haven't had sex in so long, but it's a holiday. It's your birthday. It's
Right.
a day. It's whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Both ways I think are very, very inappropriate.
Very.
Well, I want to back up to something you said, Sister Iesha, in terms of, let's say a woman is not feeling well. Maybe it's something more than a headache, or for whatever, it could be anything that's going on where she is not feeling at that moment at a place where she can engage in sexual intercourse with her husband. So we address it from the wife's point of view. What about from the other side, where the husband says, well, your body belongs to me. It doesn't belong to you. So therefore you must.
Right. So let me be clear and say, husbands and wives, don't use the scriptures as a point to fight with each other, to beat each other, where we're supposed to wash each other in the word. Now, with that being said, I think the communication is very important between husband and wife, because if there's something medically wrong, then we have to be very attentive to that. We have to be very respectful of that and know that for a time, we may have to separate, because listen, it's not only women who have issues in their bodies, it's also men too.
Right.
Okay. So we have to be very mindful and respectful of each other. If there's health issues, we want to make sure that the wife is being able to take care of herself, to get herself healthy and nurtured to a place where she can go back to performing those duties. But let me just say, the intimacy of marriage is just not based on the physical act of sex.
There
So
you go.
if we're intimate with each other in an emotional and an intelligent way and a spiritual way, we can go a time without the physical act of sex because we're
Right.
building each other up in the other areas of our marriage as well. We
Yeah.
can hold hands, we can cuddle, we can pray together. We can do all these other things that build our intimacy, outside of just the bedroom, if you will, because
Right.
it's just not limited to the bed. It's our lifestyle of
Right.
living and being married together.
Yeah, that is so good. And I love that because I personally believe that emotional connection is more important even than that sexual intimacy. That emotional intimacy is so vital because, listen, we can live without sexual intercourse, but it is so hard to live disconnected emotionally from your partner. That can cause us to die on the inside. It kills our spirit. It kills the joy. It kills the peace. It kills all of that. So yeah, I think that's really good, Iesha. I love that. I love that. Liz Toya, you have anything that you want to add to that?
No. I mean, I agree with everything that she said. Intimacy is key. You know, and that that buildup is everything. You're going throughout your day, you do the little things, and you're leading up to it. It shouldn't ever be something that's like, okay, it's Tuesday, let's go.
Right.
Okay, it's Thursday, let's go. So the intimacy is everything. So
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, I think you're feeding each other's souls in more ways than one. And I think it comes down to and back to respect too. I mean, so as long as you have that mutual respect for each other, you're not going to be in those positions to weaponize it or use, even the word against each other.
Yep.
So what do you think are some of the characteristics that a man is looking for in a wife?
Now, that was a hard question because I'm not a man. So I think that a man could better answer this question. But I do believe that.
Is Rock nearby?
I'm sure he's listening.
He is. I saw a comment before.
I mean, if we have any men that's on, men, can you comment? What you are looking for in a wife, or what
I can speak for what my husband was looking for me. He liked the fact that when he first saw me, that I was taking care of my siblings. And he was like, oh, well, she's a caretaker. She might take care of me. I was just I was just more homely. My parents had me very sheltered. So there wasn't many things that I was allowed to do. I wasn't a party girl, if you will.
Yeah.
So he didn't meet me in a club and I have no hard judgment zones for those who did meet in the club because that's your business. But I was just found in a certain place, and where he saw me, he liked the qualities and the characteristics that he saw in me as far as being responsible, being I want to say I wasn't loud, if you will, but I don't knock those who are because they are assertive. So I look at it from a different perspective. They know how to speak and get what they want. But just that he saw that I was responsible and a caretaker, and of course, I'd like to think that I'm a little cute, so maybe that was a little bit of that's all I can add from that part. But
yeah.
I think confidence is a big part of it too. I mean, I think.
Oh yeah.
I think my husband, at least for me, in that point in my life, I was confident in myself, and he almost knew that I was choosing him to that extent too. That it was, I loved myself enough. I had, built up on myself, and that I was choosing him and ready for him in that regard, and had that those intentions and that door open. So I think that's something that husbands definitely look at. They want to know that you're also ready to step into that role, and you have that confidence in yourself, to be in that role.
Well, I I can tell you that one aspect that my husband loved about me was, physically first. So I'm not gonna, it's something that he wanted. So, there you go. But one of the things he did say was that, he loved the fact that I was a family oriented person because that's how he is. He has a big family. And he loved the way I took care of, my children. Oh, there he goes.
There he goes. All right.
Yep.
He's there.
That's Toya's husband.
That's my husband. So, aw.
That's a beautiful comment, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Toya, he says Toya started as a great friend. As a wife, Toya, he says you're sexy, beautiful, you're a great mother, you're supportive, all about family, smart, homemaker, hustler, and a great partner. Fantabulous. Yeah, but I think Dr. Angel said it that it depends on the man and what qualities he's looking for in his wife. I'm not even gonna put that up there, but y'all can probably see it. When Toya said Rock was attracted to her physically, he said she's talking about her butt, y'all.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, so I guess it really depends, but yeah, I think I don't want to speak for men, but I do think that when a man is thinking about a wife, he usually will have something in mind of what he is looking for in a wife. Well, hopefully he will have that and not just choose haphazardly based on something arbitrary. Well, Angel said her husband is a butt man as well. Ty, you got good company. Yeah. So yeah, I think she said it. She said it best, and it really depends on who the man is and what his vision and what his view of a wife is.
Right.
If he views a wife as someone who is kind and loving and nurturing and giving and is spiritual, he'll look for one thing. But if he's looking for something else entirely, I guess he will look for that. Yeah. So, Iesha, talk to me about wife life. How did that get started?
Wow. So wife life, this is going to be the very transparent moment. Wife life got started because I was at a stage in my marriage when I really wanted to just give up. I didn't have role models in my life to show me what a healthy, happy marriage looked like. Like I said before, I came from a lineage of women who were very strong, and sometimes strong and wrong, and powerful. So my examples were either divorced women or women who were separated. And as I was going through hardships in my marriage, I didn't want to necessarily leave my marriage. I wanted to stay married because I wanted to be a good wife, but I just didn't know how to do it. And I didn't know who to go to. And as a result of getting counseling, as a result of spiritual guidance, I decided that, you know what, there could be a support group because wives need support. I don't care where you are in your marriage journey, even if you're doing good, we need support. And so God laid it on my heart because I was like, I don't know, what can I do? Form a support group and just be a safe space for other wives to come and talk, have conversations, discuss the hard things about marriage, build each other up, let them know that they can make it. Like there's a journey for them and they can make it and be the example, share my story. And that's how Wife Life got started.
Nice.
Wow. That's beautiful. And you have an event coming up. Is it next month or is it April? The
It's
5K?
in March. Yes. So
Okay,
in
talk about
March,
that.
Thank you. In March the 25th, I am hosting a 5K run walk. It's a cancer run walk for multiple myeloma. My mother, during the pandemic in 2020, was going through a series of health issues, and the final diagnosis that she got through her journey was multiple myeloma. And so
Mm,
as she was going through all of that, she eventually passed away.
mm,
She was diagnosed in May of 2020, and then in May 31st, 3 days, I want to say maybe 3 to 4 days after she retired,
mhm.
she passed away.
Wow, I'm so sorry.
And so, in a way for me to honor her memory and to just bring awareness about this, I decided to organize a 5K run walk to honor her.
Okay. And people can go to your Gmail and your website to get the information?
So yes, so you can go to official wife life coach at officialwifelifecoach.com, and on my business website, all the information is on there. Whether you want to volunteer or participate, you can go there. The links are there for you to register. Again, if you want to volunteer, if you just want to donate, if you want to participate virtually because you can't be there physically, all those options are there. You can go there, and you can go to my Facebook page. I have a Facebook
Mhm.
business page as well, which is also wifelifecoach.com, wife life coach on Facebook and Instagram.
Uh-oh.
You can find the information there too.
Right.
Wonderful.
Okay. I'm going to put in official wife.
Officialwifelifecoach.com.
Okay. I'm going to put it here on the banner. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can look under the descriptions and that will be there. Did I spell it right? Because sometimes, my brain don't work too good when I'm trying to type. Did it come out right?
Nope, you got it. Yep.
There.
Lifecoach.com. So go there and you can get all the information about the 5K run walk. Where is it taking place?
Well, it's going to be in New Brunswick, which is Middlesex County. It's at Bugalo Park, March
Mhm, mhm.
25th. We're going to start at 12 noon.
Okay. So I encourage you all, come out, and you need volunteers as well for
Yes,
people who don't want to actually walk or run,
yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay. So there's a lot of things you can do. You can volunteer, and it's great to be a volunteer. I volunteered in things like this before. You pass out water and you
Yep.
just be there to support some of the runners and the walkers, or sign up and join as a runner or a walker for this event,
Thank you.
worthy cause. So I'm going to be there. Hold on, I'm trying to get back to where the comments are. Okay. Oh yeah, Candace put it on. Buckaloo Park in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Thank you so much for that. So, ladies, Toya and Liz, any final words you have for the wives and the wannabe wives out there and the men who love them?
I just want to say, I know you probably have heard this before, but ladies, be his peace. And that's going to vary depending on who your husband is. When they work hard, they want, just peace sometimes. I mean, it may seem, but it's the simplest thing. When Rock gets home, I do not talk to him or bother him for like 30, 45 minutes. I let him, wind down and then, but whatever your husband's version of peace is, just try to be that for him.
Great. Liz?
Yeah. I think, choose wisely. Like, think of these roles and the part that you want to play and what your goal is in being a wife when you're dating. Think of that at the outset so that you can, so that you can be the right fit and have that mutual respect and admiration for each other. And I think that, that will help you bring the peace to what Toya said to the relationship for both of you.
Yeah. Iesha?
So I wrote a list, and it's very short. Never let earthly things divide you.
Oh, I like that.
Good one.
Pray together. resolve conflicts peacefully, make major decisions together, honor each other, be intentional, and be present.
Mm.
And lastly, seek wise, godly counsel.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, for those of you who are listening either now or later, I hope you all took notes. If you didn't, go back and rewind because that is wonderful, wonderful advice for how to navigate in a marriage.
Yes.
So I want to thank you all so much again for being here. Again, like, share, subscribe. If you're not a wife yet, but you know someone who is a wife who could benefit from this conversation, by all means, share it with her. If you were thinking about being a wife, absolutely, this is something for you. Thank you, Angel. Angel, so thank you to all the ladies here. And Candace
Okay.
said this was absolutely phenomenal. More positive conversations about marriage is necessary, especially with how society views marriage. Yes, yes, that is so true. So true. So thank you. Thank you also, Dr. Danita. Rock is crazy. Can you all see the comments?
No,
No, not.
no.
I'm gonna put it up here because I love my nephew. Let me
Oh
put
my
his
goodness.
in your list. You forgot to mention this.
Oh my goodness.
And Ayana said, such a great conversation, debunking so many stereotypes around marriage and
Mhm.
sharing the power women have in carrying out their godly wifely duties. Awesome. Thank
Yes.
you so much, Ayana. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you. Next Sunday, we'll be back. And our topic, the word is micro cheating. I had never heard of that prior to a couple of months ago. So we're going to talk about that. What is it? What does it mean? What does it look like? And is it acceptable in some relationships? So next week, join us again at 7 p.m. for a topic, micro cheating. And remember, our saying here, our motto, our strong belief is that no marriage, no relationship is beyond redemption. When the two people are committed to the marriage, committed to each other, committed to doing the work, and when you have God in the midst, you can't go wrong. So join us again next week. Thank you again. I love you all. Bye bye.
Thank you.